Jesse, I'm actually a tour guide here, but this building exists because of the discovery of gold in Western Australia. Because literally thousands of people, they travelled here. They were actually inspired by the success of those men in the statue. Now, their names were Arthur Bailey and William Ford. And they were actually fossicking for gold about 600 kilometres east of Perth, in an area called Coolgardie. That was back in September 1892. Now, these men actually weren't having much luck finding their fortune, so they decided to make their way back, but it got a bit late, so they had to make camps. So they found a little clearing, they set up their tent, and they went to sleep. Well, where they'd made their campsite was actually right next to a dried up creek bed. What happened that night, some bad weather came through, which actually removed all the red clay and topsoil that surrounded their camp. So the next morning when they woke up, they wiped the sleep away from their eyes. On the ground that surrounded their camp, in total they collected 16 kilograms of gold. And just 1 year later, the population of WA actually grew from 40,000 people to 160,000 people, all because of this huge gold find. So the Premier at the time, his name was Sir John Forrest, he wrote a letter to the British government asking that they either build a branch of the Royal Mint here in Perth just to process and refine all this gold. We asked them to either do that or send over a boatload of gold sovereigns. Basically because there were so many nuggets being discovered that we were actually running out of money to give in exchange for them all. But permission to build the mint was granted in 1896. This building officially opened up in 1899. Now when you look at the walls, you can see it's made mostly out of limestone blocks. The darker coloured, which makes up most of the walls, that was actually taken from Cottesloe Beach. And then the lighter coloured limestone we used on the pillars and at the top of the archways as well, that was put on barges from Rottnest Island. It was brought up the Swan River to the Barrack Street jetty where our bell tower is. Then it was brought on horse and cart up to our huge construction site. Now the main entryway to the mint is obviously through those two big green double doors. But just to the left of the entryway, there's a big marble stone embedded into the wall. And if you come over there with me, I'll just explain a bit more about it. Okay, now this marble stone, this is actually our foundation stone. But what's interesting about it is this rock just above the foundation stone, the mortar around it is a different colour. That's because on the centenary of the Perth Mint in 1999, we actually removed this rock and discovered there was a time capsule placed inside the foundation stone in 1896. Now inside there we had a range of coins that were circulating at the time. There was also a stack of 17 different newspapers that had been printed by different companies around Perth, also in the goldfields as well. But rolled up inside there, we had a copy of the original plans. Now, we were looking at these and saw the building looks a little bit different nowadays. Because on those original plans, it was actually designed that there was just one door that everybody entered through together. Well, that was changed by the first deputy master of the Perth Mint. His name was John Francis Campbell. See, he didn't like the idea that his family or any royalty that visited the Perth Mint, that they had to share the same door as everybody else. So he said, I want one door that my own family enter through, which is this left-hand door. Everybody else, they had to enter through the right-hand door. They even had a guard station in front of the centre pillar to make sure we all entered through their correct door. Well, the guard is not there right now. So if you are feeling a bit royal today, you're welcome to go through the left-hand door. If not, you can come through the right-hand door with me. Just come back inside though, and I'll explain how we used to track the guards as they did their patrol. So just through this way. Now what we have here, this is a recreation of a campsite, just to give you an idea of life in the goldfields back in the late 1800s. Well, it isn't really a pleasant place to live because these guys had it tough. After they travelled from the other side of Australia and even the other side of the world, when they arrived here in Fremantle Harbour, They actually believed that they would find the gold at their feet as soon as they hopped off the boat. Well, they then got a bit of bad news, because they then discovered they got to walk for another 600 kilometres inland just to get to the gold fields. So they would then have to buy a wheelbarrow just like our one here, which has an iron wheel, would have been nice and easy to push. They would then load it up with all their picks and their shovels, all their clothes, food and water for the journey. Then they would push that for nearly 30 days in the middle of summer. Once they arrived, they would then set up a tent and a campfire, and they'd start searching for their gold. Now, they actually believed once they arrived, all their troubles would be over, but there were a few problems waiting for the prospectors. A lot of them suffered from dehydration and malnutrition because there wasn't enough food or water to go around. And the others probably suffered from diseases such as typhoid and cholera. Now, they thought it was hot when they arrived here in Perth. On the hottest days in the goldfields, it actually got up to 50 degrees Celsius. And in these extreme conditions, the life expectancy of a prospector was about 40 years old. Some of them, though, didn't even last that long. Just on the other side of the archway, there's a story about a man named John Aspinall. He was 21 when he travelled from New Zealand, just decided to come here, seek his fortune. Fortunately, before he struck gold, he was actually struck by lightning in the middle of the desert. The main reason why anybody put up with it, though, were a chance to find something like this. This one here is the largest nugget discovered in Western Australia, actually found by a 16-year-old boy and his father in the middle of the Great Depression, so in 1931. Now, when they melted it down, they actually received 6,000 pounds. And really, the only thing you can do with 6,000 pounds in the middle of the Great Depression is open up a pub, which is what they did, naming it after the nugget. They called this the Golden Eagle Hotel, because it looks a little bit like an eagle soaring through the air. So this one, West Australia's largest nugget. Our most recent discovery, though, is this thing right here, found in Victoria in 1980. They called it the Hand of Faith, and if they melted it down, these guys would have received about $400,000. They didn't actually melt it, though. They kept it like this in its natural form. Then they sold it to the Golden Nugget Casino in Las Vegas for over $1 million. Now, the reason why, it's the 23rd largest nugget recorded, but the other 22, including the Golden Eagle, have been melted down. So this one jumped from 23 recorded to number 1 in existence. They even melted down the world's largest nugget, which we have over here as well. Also found in Victoria, but in 1869. They called it the Welcome Stranger. This weighed a total of 71.5 kilograms of gold. So, very lucky find for them. But this one, broken into 3 different pieces, melted down as well. So, it doesn't exist. Now, we don't actually find too many of these larger nuggets here in Western Australia. Most of the gold we dig up is found in gold-bearing ore. And just on display in the corner over here, if you want to come around the campsite, we have an example of some gold-bearing ore. Now, this big lump of rock, this is an example of 1 tonne of gold-bearing ore. Now, that piece isn't from the super pit, but for every tonne that we dig up in Kalgoorlie, we get about 2 to 3 grams of gold from that, which isn't very much, but last year we dug up over $700 million worth of gold from the super pit, so you can imagine how much of this stuff that we had to dig up. But really, this is all the fake stuff. This is just a lump of rock. That stuff there, bits of plastic. You haven't come to the mint to see this stuff, you've come to see the real gold. So if you want to just go down that way, you can actually have a look inside the vault. But thank you very much, guys, and I hope you have a great day.